Hi, this is Catherine, and this is Taking Tea with Catherine. The tea I'm taking today is mint chocolate rooibos tea, which a rare treat for me because I don't take in a lot of chocolate. I'm a little sensitive to chocolate. You don't want to hear about that. But I thought it was kind of fun to have it in this Mr. Goodbar mug. I rarely eat Hershey's chocolate because if I'm gonna eat something that might not agree with me, I'm gonna eat something that's really good. But I like this mug because I've had it since I was a kid, and we used to eat a lot of these Mr. Goodbars and other Hershey's chocolates. So in my family, it's a bit of a classic. So that's my Catherine way of tying in the fact that I'm going to try to do a lot of classics in January. So this is my January TBR already. I can't believe it. And one of the main reading goals I've had for 2020 is to read more classics, and that's very much in line with Lucy the Reader's initiative to do a thing called Classics Community, which a lot of folks get together on the internet and talk about the classics they're reading and trying to read more. The simplest goal is maybe to read 12 in the year, so like once a month, read one classic. Obviously, I am too ambitious and want to read a lot more than that, mainly because I have been reading more classics than I had in previous years. I go through like little renaissances of classics reading. Like when I was a teenager, I read a bunch and then stopped for a while in my 20s, and then maybe a little more in my 20s, not that much. Then in my 30s again, I started up again and went full throttle with all the Dickens and stuff like that. And then, petered off a little, the occasional classic here and there. And now in recent years, I have started up again. And I love that people like Lucy, are trying to get people to just get into and read more classics. So that in itself is a good goal. But my personal goal, and so my personal goal is not just to read more classics, but to read more history. And I want to continue doing this thing. It's kind of a project, kind of not. Freddie, really? He's going to take a bath in front of you guys. Wherein I not only read more classics, but I read more like books that work with the classics. So a history book of the time period where the classics takes place. He's being very rude. And or biographies of the authors. So that will definitely show itself in my TBR, at least a little bit. But most of what I have here is fiction and classics. And like I said, this is very ambitious. I doubt that I will read all of these because, again, I am a mood reader a little bit, and I have to be able to incorporate that into my month. If in the middle of January I suddenly feel the need to read some random book about cats or whatever, I am going to do it. But the first 2 weeks of January, going along with this classics community deal, there's a classics-a-thon wherein the readers try to read as many classics as possible. So I could work this in. And there are a few things. I mean, I have some time off in January, not as much as some people might, but I have at least 2 days off in the weekdays because of, government holidays, whatever. I might end up getting called in for jury duty. I really hope not. But if I do, I remember reading a lot when I was waiting. It's a lot of waiting. So if you bring a book, I mean, I know nowadays they let you bring a phone in, but I don't want to bank on that. Anyway, so enough about my life. I'm going to just try to fit in as much reading as possible, as always. But I'm going to first show you a couple of books that I am currently reading and just have not finished yet and hope to at least get much further in January. And the first one is Dombey and Son. I really haven't gotten that far, but it's weird because when I read it, I am actually really liking it. I guess just because I'm reading so many different things, I'm just not moving fast, but it's all right. I'm reading this as a buddy read with my sister Bonnie, and she seems to be going at a similar pace to me, so we're good. But I do think this is so far one of my favorite Dickens. Not my top, but a good one. Definitely a good one. I am invested enough in certain characters, which is a big deal for me, and I'm not totally overwhelmed by the amount of characters yet either. And I've had a couple of good laughs, which is important. And the other one that I've made actually more headway in is Little Women by Louise May Alcott. I know the movie came out already, but I don't know when I'm going to end up seeing it. As you can see, I've gotten quite far past the middle. I don't love it yet, though. I don't want to say I'm trying to get through it because I said that I wouldn't do that I would give up. But I don't want to give up on it. I still like part of it. I still enjoy some of it, but I don't like it as much as I had hoped to. But I want to keep going. I just want to keep going. And it's a classic, so, it works. Another book that I started in 2019, and somehow, I mentioned this before, the point of view changed from one person to another, and I just suddenly lost interest for a while. It doesn't mean I lost it altogether. And now that we're going into January, and I'm starting to do a little more of a, let's do more Bronte. Well, let's keep going with The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I do actually like this a lot. I just need to break back into a different point of view. And I think I can do this in January, at least get farther. In tandem, I hate these words, with this, Freddie. This is like the TBR plus the bathing show. I have this book. I might show it in my haul as well, but have I showed this in my haul yet? I don't know. Take Courage, Anne Bronte and the Art of Life. So, a biography of Anne Bronte. I think this works, and I honestly feel that reading about a book or a person while I'm reading their works actually helps, because I'm still reading, I haven't showed you it here, but the Meg Jo Beth Amy book about Little Women, and I think I actually enjoy that more than the book itself. And it did give away a few spoilers when I was, reading it before I got to the part in the book, but I'm fine with that. I've already seen movies of Little Women, so I know I'm already spoiled pretty much. But I like the color of this book too. It just looks so compact and nice. So I think that'll motivate me, or at least I'll try to let it motivate me. I say a lot. Freddie's sitting on my books. Sort of in line with Bronte. This is a little weird, but I think I mentioned before how I have these Virago Modern Classics, these dark green colored paperbacks that now they're different. The Virago Modern Classics, they've made them they're more modern, I guess. But these were made a little while ago. But, bringing back some actual, classics that people have heard of, and also some classics that people may not have heard of. I think all by women. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's all women authors, Virago. It seems to work. But this book I showed you in a haul recently, The Three Sisters. I think from what I can tell that, first of all, the picture on the front is the Bronte sisters from the National Portrait Gallery, which I plan to visit in London, hopefully. It takes place in Yorkshire. It's about three sisters, Mary, Gwendolyn, and Alice. And I think it's kind of about-ish the Brontes, but maybe not exactly. So I thought that might kind of work alongside the other two. I had read a book, and this is, oh my goodness, so long ago. Probably around 2001, 2002. And I looked it up recently. I think it's called Cold Water. And it was about three sisters and their father who moved to a penal colony in Australia. The father was like the captain of the penal colony, and he wants to make all these changes. And the girls are Charlotte, Emily, and Anne. I don't think their last name was Bronte, but they were based on them. And it was kind of a weird premise, but I liked it at the time. I don't know if I would like it now. I don't know if this Three Sisters will be like that, but I'm curious. I don't know. If you guys have ever read Cold Water, let me know what you think too, because I don't know anybody else who's read it. I've seen some reviews on Goodreads, but I don't know anyone who's read it. All right. So, here's two books that I've started. This one I really hope to get back into. I hear other people trying to read this book too, so I may have company, which helps sometimes. Dun dun dun! War and Peace. I started this actually with the other Classics-a-thon-ish deal, or was it? I think it was called that Lucy, the reader, did in August, but I didn't make much headway. I think I like it, but I just haven't got far enough, and I was having trouble keeping track of the names that were, there's so many different forms of Russian names, and your brain has to get used to it. Wow, Freddie is just, you know what? You want to show, you gotta show. But it was good, so I wouldn't mind making a little more headway in this. And I wanted to read more Trollope, and I think I just have to get back to Barchester Towers. I was looking at this book and I said, how did I read so far and then give up? Like, what's wrong with me? But, because I know I haven't read this since, like, over 10 years ago. Because I remember reading it on a train to Boston. And I haven't been to Boston since 2009. And I don't think I took the train that year. I think it was 2008 I took the train. So, yeah. Over a decade since I read that. And then I noticed that this is a combination of The Warden and Barchester Towers. So, really, this is how far I've gotten. As you can see, this little thing here, this little dent. So I have to start over again. Not maybe with The Warden, but with Barchester Towers. Just start over again. Because it doesn't make sense to just start in the middle like that. Look at this. Look at this. You know, sometimes I am so typical. Years have passed and I'm still the girl who reads a lot of books and can't stop with the tea things. But I love Trollope, or what I've read so far, Trollope, and I want to start into the Barchester series. So, you know, I know I read The Warden and liked it. So that's good. Now, 3 mysteries. Again, highly ambitious for me. But I kind of think, just a little chocolate. I kind of think that even if I could read 1.5 of these, I'll be happy. But I might read 2. I might read 2. I've mentioned this more than once because I finished the Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and I kept showing this book, and I was like, no, not talking about Murder of the Orient Express. I think I'm allergic to Murder of the Orient Express. Excuse me. I've always wanted to read Murder on the Orient Express. I've seen adaptations. I know what happens. I was in Murder on the Orient Express. When I say that, in 6th grade, and I was about, I guess, 11, my class did a play, and it was based on Murder on the Orient Express, except it took place on a subway train in New York. And it was in the 80s, again, so late 80s, so they did, you know, stuff about the graffiti and everything. I mean, it made it a lot more of that time. The play itself, I think, had been written in the 70s at least, because Agatha Christie features in it, and she's kind of like the narrator. She's like interviewed in the beginning, and then it goes back into the story, and she seemed to be still alive, just older, so it was probably written in the 70s again. She died the year I was born, so that makes kind of sense, you know, that they would still have those plays on hand at my school, you know. You should have seen the books they had on hand at my school. So I was in that play as Agatha Christie, but they changed her name to Agatha Christie because she was supposed to be so old, so that's who I was. I don't know if I did a great job. I didn't carry my voice very well. We didn't really have microphones because, you know, very simple school play, but it was still nice to be able to, I don't know, tread the boards or whatever. And so I've always had a little bit of a knowledge. I think basically my earliest knowledge of Poirot was from that, because someone played Poirot in there and he put on like a whole over the top accent. And there was someone who played Miss Marple, but I think they made her out to be like, oh, I don't know. It's so long ago, I don't remember everything about it. But it was fun. I said fun again. And since then, I've seen adaptations. I have Tea of Murder on the Orient Express. I think it's a great story, but I haven't actually read the actual book. So it's time. It really is time. So, yeah. Before I become too crusty. That doesn't sound right. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And, you know, it's not exactly in order of the Poirot books that I've been reading, but it's still time. I think it's time. And speaking of time, I mentioned this in my haul last time. I want to read things that come into the whole I'm going to London soon and want to be familiar, overly familiar, and Full Dark House by Christopher Fowler. This is, let's see, aside from the biography, this seems to be the only non-classic in this particular TBR. So, yeah, wow, that's a lot. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to. I love this series, so I think it's a good exception. And now this is the last one, and I really hope it fits in with everything. It's not a long book, but if I don't have time, that's going to be sad. But I was like, I want to find a mystery that is a classic and takes place in London. And I know Sherlock Holmes, and there's plenty of Poirot that do that, and there's plenty of other ones. I probably have some if I really searched, but I want to start Dorothy L. Sayers. So the first one is Whose Body? I've had this for a few months. I bought it at Book Off, and and I think it's such a new copy too. It's such a great new copy. Dorothy L. Sayers. So I went to the very first page. The Singular Adventure of the Man with the Golden Pins. Isn't that Sherlock Holmes? But anyway, it starts, besides the dedication, one of the very first lines says, "Oh, damn," said Lord Peter Wimsey at Piccadilly Circus. "Hi, driver." The taxi man, irritated at receiving this appeal while negotiating the intricacies of turning into Lower Regent Street across the route of a 19 bus, 38B and a bicycle, bent an unwilling ear. So I'm like, that is so London. That I can actually picture it. That is so London. So that will incorporate everything of my reading goals, and except for my reading history. But I can read history about this time period as well. I think I could sometime this year, maybe. Anyway, so that is probably not all of the books that I plan to read or plan to keep reading, because again, it's not just to be read from January 1st to January 30th. 31st, 30 days, half September. I know that I can't envelop all the books that I choose for my TBR within the space of that month, and I don't plan to. I just hope to read at least a few of these in their completion in the month, and I think that will suit me just fine. Really hope to finish Little Women already. I know what I said about not going on with the book if I'm not absolutely enthralled with it, but it's so weird because I don't hate it. I just don't feel the love that everybody who loves it seems to express. But I have heard other people say that they don't really like it that much and why, and those reasons seem to agree with me. Anyway, I have other books, even classics, that I was thinking about reading this month and had put in a list of books I wanted to read this month, but I don't want to get crazy. If I do, I will, and I'll mention it in my wrap-ups or whatever's. But I think for now, this is a pretty good list, and if you've read any of these, let me know what you think without giving away spoilers. And I hope if anyone else is taking part in the classics challenges, the classics community, the classics-a-thon, whatever you want to call it, please comment below as well, even if you're just doing a couple of classics next year. I just like to see that, other people are doing things that I'm doing. Right? We're not alone. So this is Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea-filled, classics-filled day and year and month, whatever. Bye.